What is up, guys? I know this is probably a little bit of an odd stream, so I had to call a very quick audible because apparently my computer decided it was going to be really stupid and start running an update literally as I was trying to click go live, and I can't stop the update. So that paired with the fact that it's saying it's going to be at least 45 minutes, I didn't really have much of an alternative. So, because I told you guys 4 o'clock and I was already a few minutes behind, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go for a drive. And hopefully I get the hell away from the sun so you're not blinded like I am right now looking at the screen. But yes, so here we are, Mavs Fast Break. I've got some interesting stuff to talk about. Yes, the Mavericks are in the midst of quite a struggle right now. Currently have lost 5 straight games, but at the same time, they're competitive, right? Like, this team needs to figure out how to close out some of these games late. But I'm not panicking even though they've lost 5 straight, and we know what their road record is this year. It's trash on the road this year. They won at Houston in blowout fashion, mind you, without Chris Paul, and then they won at Chicago earlier this year. I'm pretty certain that's still the best that they've done so far as road wins. But these are good growing pains for them to go through. Doncic has continued to play very well. Yes, he had 14 quick points against the Warriors the other night and then ended with 19. That's not strong, but you know what? He's making plays and he's starting to command respect around the league. Now, the other problem with having to run the show this way is that I don't have my graphics on call that I really wanted, that I wanted to be able to give you exact quotes and things of that nature. But if you guys can indulge me in the comments, you can let me know exact quotes, perhaps, so I can work with that. I'm trying to block out the screen for you. That's actually about as good as I can make it right now. Does this prove to the haters we actually need Dennis Smith Jr.? I feel like it should count for something for sure, because Dennis Smith, I mean, he is a really promising prospect. You just have to understand there are undersized point guards who have high ceilings. You just have to develop it, and it takes more time when it's an undersized point guard. Barnes and Matthews need to go. I thought you said Barnes said Matthews needs to go. I was like, oh, I missed that one. Hey, guys, if you don't mind, hit the like button real quick if you're watching this, enjoying this. I'm trying. I know it's not my normal show that I do for you guys, but I'm doing the best I can in this situation. So, yeah. So let's talk about Barnes in particular, because the real crux of the show that I wanted to talk about relates to something Barnes said and something Mark Cuban said prior to that. That, to me, is where the really interesting discussion is to be had. And I wanted to have any on for this, but with it being like right before the holidays, travel and everything is just kind of crazy, and so we weren't really able to coordinate that as I would like. But I'll do my best to tackle that here. So, jumping into what Mark Cuban had to say, Mark Cuban, when talking with, I believe it was a European basketball outlet, was talking about specifically how American players, younger players in particular, could benefit so greatly from basically going over to, now the sun's over here, over to like Slovenia, for example. And instead of working on like the AAU circuit and doing, these mixtapes and highlight tapes and all of that, where I think the way he framed it was where all they do is practice taunting and mixtapes as opposed to actually the fundamentals of the game and things like that. What up, Cowboys X Factor? What up, Marcos? That was the gist of what he was talking about, basically saying that the game would be way better off if more young players did that. And I get what he's trying to say, but I also feel like it kind of felt like something where he's trying to build up Luka, and in the process, he's kind of chopping down a lot of the guys on his roster. And one of the most significant guys that took clear exception to that was, in fact, Harrison Barnes, who then had a comment after the fact saying he completely disagrees. He doesn't even find it funny if it was intended to be said in that kind of way. and basically saying it's like an important part of the culture and things like that, that AAU and everything. The thing is, I get where both guys are coming from on this, but I do agree at the same time. I played AAU. I did. Annie and I both played AAU all through middle school, high school, all that. And there's definitely a lot of good competition there, but there is something to be said that you do have a lot of teams that are just built off of athletes, and rather than it being a cohesive team, it's just a bunch of guys that are incredibly athletic and make a lot of stellar plays. And so it's like, I think that's kind of what Cuban's trying to talk about, is like a mixtape culture where it's more about the individual as opposed to the fundamental and the game itself. I get why that gets to a sketchy territory a little bit, but I mean, Cuban's hardly the first guy to say the AAU culture is trash. Kobe Bryant said it just a few years ago. I think 2015, he had a comment calling out that culture as well, and we didn't say anything about it. So it's kind of a mixed bag in that regard. I also think it's important to recognize the fact that I don't think this is something Cuban said. I saw people making this assertion. That's why I'm clarifying. I don't think it was something Cuban said in a racist way. Like, I know that that was a little bit of a discussion point, but I think that that's just coincidental. Because if it was the opposite, if you literally flipped the country in this place, the argument still remains. If it's one thing where it's built on not learning the fundamentals and it's more built about just compiling these highlight tapes and all of that and sending them off to anyone and everyone who will watch it, then it's not good for the game of basketball, which was the root point that Cuban was trying to make. If you send the players to like European League, or he specifically mentions Slovenia because of Luka, the league and the game would be far better off. That was the point. So that's what I look at in that regard. I think it's a little bit misconstrued, but I understand why it's a sensitive subject and why there's been some backlash. Now, I see some of the people in the comments mentioning, specifically talking about how this is like a sign that Barnes is on the way out or whatever like that. So Barnes has a player option for next year. He's going to opt into that because he's on the last year of a huge deal. He's going to make something like $20 million approximately in the final year of the deal. And he's going to take that. He's going to take that, and it's up to Dallas to either you're not going to get someone to take on, well, I mean, you might find someone that would take on the contract, but you're not going to cut him and just eat that loss. Dallas is going to keep him and ride it out through next year, or they're going to have to find a way to package him in a deal. So, we'll see how that works out. I don't even know if that's what it is. I know Dallas. I was a little surprised by the back and forth because I know Dallas loves Harrison Barnes, and they view him like the Michael Finley to Luka and Dennis Smith Jr.'s Dirk and Nash. So it's a mixed bag. And hey, speaking of which, Steve Nash, he wasn't even a rookie when he came to Dallas, and it took until like his fourth year in Dallas before he really figured things out here. So for everyone impatient with Dennis Smith Jr. and his progression, just remember Nash didn't smell like a rose when he got here either, and he didn't stay healthy, and he didn't look very good at all until like end of year 3, and then year 4 was like, oh hey, what's going on here with this kid? So something to consider. Speaking of Harrison Barnes as a player, he's not a player who ever has averaged many assists. I think he's averaging just over 1 assist per game, and I think in that situation, he's a guy who the last 2 years in Dallas has been asked to be the primary scorer, and as a result of that, he's not a guy that's a distributor. He's just not used to it. And now, even though the role has shifted, where he's still up in the upper discussion of the points per game leader for Dallas, it's just a change in what it is, and his style of play doesn't mesh as well. So that's the perception of. I saw someone mention like that he's a black hole a little bit. He certainly hurt them late in that game with that. And I think he was like something like 0 of 5 or 0 of 6 from 3 against the Warriors, so that wasn't good. But I mean, the thing is, if you're going to move on from Harrison Barnes, you can't have it both ways, right? If you're going to move on from Barnes, you have to either already have something in return for him or something you can raise up in place of him that's better, or you have to accept the fact that this is not a playoff year. 0 of 8. Thank you, Ken. Or you have to accept the fact this is not a playoff year for the Mavericks. You can't have it both ways. You can't get rid of Barnes and still have a playoff year for the Mavericks. It doesn't work that way with how this team is currently constructed. So there's that. Regarding Wes Matthews, I think he gets dealt before the deadline. I've seen a lot of speculation about Dallas trying to swing some deal with the New York Knicks in exchange for him, a second rounder, in exchange for Hardaway Jr. I would love that as a scoring option, but there's no doubt Hardaway Jr. is one of the most laughable contracts in the NBA right now. And the thing is, on our team and with as much cap room as we have next year, we can take it on. And as long as you're getting that scoring production out of him, like especially a guy that can do that for your second unit, and I know we already have second unit pretty well held down, but if you could do something like that, it's a benefit. It's a plus. And if that's, I mean, honestly, if you were to ask me what I thought the best thing what we could get for Wes Matthews is, I would probably say Hardaway Jr. is about the caliber of veteran player you're probably going to get in return. But again, it's all speculation right now, so I don't really want to go too far down that road until we see what happens. I think it's going to be dealt closer to deadline. I don't think it's happening right now, even though I've seen speculation talking about it. Let me see here. I know I'm messing with the camera. Here we go. I was trying to get the comments to come back so I could, now that I'm parked, I can actually kind of read through some of what you're talking about. 20 counted lines games. Let's see. What up, Gle? Love Dirk, but he needs to retire if he's not going to be utilized. He's out there liability. Coach cannot keep running plays. Yeah, okay, so here's the thing, guys. Regarding Dirk, I know Dirk has not looked great since he came back. I warned this would be the case. I did. I said, in recent years, anytime you run Dirk out there, he doesn't hit the ground running at the start of the season. Even when he's had a full training camp and he's been healthy, it takes time to get him going. Now, again, this being his last year, him being 21 years in the league and a 7-footer, of course mobility is going to be a problem for him. And defensively, he's a liability as a result. But you can still find ways to utilize him. And if you let him work his way back into form, assuming he can stay healthy to work himself into that form, you still have a guy who last year gave you 12 points per game in the starting lineup. I don't think he'll give you 12 per game this year. I know some people were trying to say Dirk would be sixth man of the year this year, first year coming off the bench since his rookie year. I never thought that was going to be a possibility, but I still looked at it as, you know what? It's still Dirk. He's still a black hole in the sense that the gravity of his shooting ability still pulls guys to him. He had a post up in the Warriors game that commanded a double team. 21 years in the league and he's commanding a double team on a post up. Like, he still gets that respect and you can still run him in that. Now, you got to bend over backwards to make up for his defensive, liability and everything, but it's still something where you can get a lot out of him if you can be patient. And yeah, I know people are also correlating his coming back with this now 5-game losing streak, and I think he's been here for 4 of the 5 games during that streak. No, he's been here for all 5 because we beat Atlanta. Wow, my watch party was the last time we won a game. Huh. Interesting. But yes, he's been here during the whole 5-game losing streak. It's just anytime you make a significant change to the equation, you have to balance some things out. You also have guys that aren't healthy. Dennis Smith Jr. is still dealing with an irritable wrist injury. And I see my video is frozen a little bit, and I look like I'm very sad. Dennis Smith Jr. is still dealing with an irritable wrist injury. I hope people now kind of understand how important he is to this team and what they're doing. Hopefully my camera eventually wakes up and I don't just keep this goofy face the whole time. I look like I'm very sadly pleading with everyone, like, please subscribe. Let's see. Let me jump on the comments back here again. What up, Young Onyx? Can catch him. Cam Hicks. What's up, guys? No way I would compare Finley to Barnes. I mean that in the way of how they perceive him, not in terms of actual ability. What up, Says? Dirk not yet ready. I agree. He needs more time, but he's got to. The thing is, at this point, it has to be time on the court in the game for him to find form. Let's see. Let's get Jabari Parker. Let's not. I don't want to do Jabari Parker, man. The dude, he's supposed to be like a stretch 4 essentially, but he's not much of a stretch. He's had multiple torn hamstrings, not hamstrings. I think ACL is what he's torn multiple times. And so as a result of that, I don't really want to invest in that. He's a complete liability defensively too. He's trash defensively, and I think it would hurt us incorporating him. Being patient is harder when you know for a fact you're going to run Sports Center top 10 on a daily soon. Being patient is harder. Yeah, you just gotta do it. I mean, we had this team 2 or 3 years away still from being here. Guys, tell me if the camera is still lagged for you. If I'm still frozen. Let me see. If I flip the camera, flip it, looking at nothing for a moment. Wait for it. Wait for it. Not a good fit at all. Frozen. Yeah, I'm frozen. Okay. Oh, interesting. That just flips the angle. Huh. Well, there's not really a way for me to shut that off. Let me see. As I try and make a tweak here. Let me show you. I'm gonna keep driving around, I guess, a little bit and see if I can find a spot where things just eventually wake up. Oh man. Tell you what, if I can, whenever my computer is up and running later today, I will do another proper show if you guys want. I'm sorry it's backed up like this. I just got thrown a curveball literally as I was ready to hit live stream, and now I'm kind of scrambling to work around it. Remember when I told you Luka to Klay Thompson? Klay Thompson's not an off the dribble guy though. He's very spot up shooter, and Luka can go off the dribble and distribute better. But in terms of ability to impact a game at times, sure. Let's see. Let's see. We need to stop Durant on the other end. Yes, please do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Tell you what, guys. I'm gonna wrap this stream here. I'm going to try and fix whatever's going on with the computer. It's just doing an update, but I just got to make sure it finishes the update, and then I'll go live again. We're going to roll this back one more time. I've only been going about 15 minutes. No word yet that I've seen about if Luka's playing tonight. I've only seen that he is questionable says. I know Dennis Smith is out, and there was another significant player as well that I think is out as well. But I will run this back, guys, and hopefully the camera is good. I don't really know what else I can do to kind of fix it. So hang tight. I'll be back. And till then, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.